There we are. And I got this little earbud in because I'm trying to follow what we're doing, but I can't find us on live. And the pop-up video is missing, so if people are actually there we go. Okay, I got all that sorted out. So, there we go. Hey, Glenn. Hey, David. And there I am. See? Made sure I showed up at least one more time before the end of the year. Trying to bring this up so I can kind of hear what's kind of going on. But I'm having some problems hearing myself. So there I am. Okay. Okay, we're going to start off something a little different. I can hear myself, but I want to hear how this sounds. We're going to do something a little different than what we've been doing. So, because we're waiting for people to kind of join in. So we'll do something, waiting for another screen to load. So a lot going on here. Trying to multitask for a change. Gotta be like one of those really big podcasts where it's like they have an engineer in here and someone else is moving all the parts. Okay. So it's not going to allow it to load. So one thing is interfering with the other. No, maybe it will. So we're going to try this. And we don't want to do that. And we're going to have to readjust all this. So I'm going to have to quickly do that. Well, this is always going to be a pain. It seemed, I'm sure everybody knows how everything seems like such a good idea at the time, and then you can't practice it. But we're going to try this and see how it sounds. And it's coming through. Yeah, it is. Okay. And I'll be back to the comments here in a minute. Let's see here. It's Friday, yes. There's Stevens, base of Rincon Mountain. And saying it's the key of C. I don't have my notes here. And David Villa. We got a hey dudes. Resting from surgery. I hope you're doing well, Tony. And so this is a piece that we did not use for sunsets. This was one of the songs that was on that, probably a 4 or 5 that we were deciding to use for the end or opening of sunsets, which we did not use. So, and it'll be finishing up here soon. But, and I'll explain the story behind it. But I'm sure most everyone here who watched the Chasing Legends video. We did the Merry Christmas video. And the idea behind it was, because we'd missed the last live. And because we'd missed the last live, I thought, well, we should do something for Christmas. And then there's always the problem with, what do we do? Well, I wanted to do just a standalone video, do Chasing Legends, and then release the song Tuesday. Trevor's problem is, well, we're going to like encroach upon the video, so why don't we just put them together, fade out. So we did the video, put in the pieces where I say stay tuned, and did that. So kind of because we'd missed the last live and life intervenes and work and stuff, so we're almost through the piece of music. But I wanted everybody to get a feel for kind of some of the other music as we're waiting for everybody to chime in and kind of jump in and everything. So, but the idea behind this is there's a few people that are like, well, I just want to talk treasure hunting, and live we kind of talk a little of everything. So what I wanted to do was maybe on Wednesdays release some of this music and these pieces that we didn't use, and have some B-roll footage that we'll be capturing. There it goes. But anyways, that was a piece called the Lost El Dorado, which was supposed to be that was going to be used, and I'm going to get myself out of my ear because of the delay. But Trevor had his pick of several songs, so that was one of the other pieces we were going to sample from for it. So what we'll do is we'll release these in videos, like maybe on Wednesdays, and then what'll happen is there'll be a playlist, so the people who want to just hear the musical pieces and those type of things can go to that playlist in YouTube and listen to them, depending on their success or how that works, because there is I think it's $25 a year per song you have to be put in the to have them listed in iTunes or up somewhere or Spotify. So there's a payment fee. So we'll do that and kind of run into things. We got our trolls, so we'll get rid of them here. Got my strat and played along with you. So gotta remember how. Oh, that's how I did that. And there they go. Bye. Oh, gotta remember it, and they just go bye-bye. But Bobby's there. Hey, howdy. Yep, Happy New Year. Good to see him, Bobby, around. Gotta make sure everybody's around. Yeah, I'll get rid of him because I was talking. So it just doesn't take very long to kind of remove them and get them out. So, and should add him as a moderator, huh? No, we just get rid of him. Well, you're back and you're gone. So, so anyhow, so I can do those and just move those. Would love to go gold painting with Woody. Woody has classes, so I don't know what his. I don't think we have his thing up. So, but anyways, as you can tell, I can see Stevens down at the bottom there on what's happening here, and that reason is because, ta-da! I fixed the monitors. So the monitors are fixed, so actually I can see the full screen over here on my left now, even though I've got the microphone a little in front of it. So I can see the comments as they're added and they come up. I don't know how much of there's a delay. There might be enough of a delay, to be completely honest, that you can bump stuff off before it actually really appears. Because there is a bit of a delay. So when I'm talking, but I don't know how much the delay is on the C. But anyways, that's the plan musically. We can still shill things. Sunsets, DVD, Blu-ray, available on Amazon Prime. Doing itself very well. Very proud of Trevor for all that. anyone has seen it would, again, it's just not me just going up. It's just the way it is from there and whatnot. I'd love to go on a hunt with you. I don't know, a lot of people say that, and then people don't want to go again, ever again. They go, I'm sick of those mountains after going out with me. It's hard because I'm just going to go where the wind goes, and I'm just going to do my thing. And damn, it takes me so long to find you. Well, I found you. Happy New Year. Why? YouTube. You just type in Legend of the Superstition Mountain. It should pop up that little icon, and then you just go to live. It should pop that up. You're waiting for it, should send, if you hit the notifications thing, it should send you a notification when we go live. New episodes. We filmed probably 4 or 5. We like to do them in sets of 12, so we have some unfinished stuff to go through. That's been a little of what we've been doing, is talking about getting it out and doing some of those things. The other problem is, I'm not going to say live gets in the way, but we have to kind of like, okay, who's available? Well, let's go do this, blah, 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 blah. Well, no, Susan, you go to the website, and it'll have, there's a thing, a notification bell there, and you click that, and it'll do notifications when we're live. So you have to do that and do that. So anyways, so there you go on that. So that'll solve you all your problems and set those things. So there you go. Where are we at now? Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Well, if we go with you, will you put us on a spot? We've done that. So, yeah. So it's just kind of, it is what it is. Will your next outing be soon? Well, it could have already happened. It could be tomorrow. You don't know when the next time we'll be in the mountains. Because I don't announce that I'm going to, unless we're doing one of those hikes that we did, like with the Dons of Arizona here locally. Tendency is not to have people around when you're treasure hunting. Yeah, there's very few people we've went out with. We did that hike to Garden Valley last year. We might repeat that hike here in January or February because of after the fire, to look at it in incidentally different light after the fire. Maybe even go further. Maybe go around to go around Hackberry or go down to Second Water. But generally, let's see. Randy Wrights went out with us. Kim Johnson was out with us. This is outside of the actual crew. I'm trying to think of who else has been out with us. It's very few and far between. It's kind of a thing of like, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot we want to do, and then there's a lot we just don't want, what we'll be doing. So, great, now my problems will be solved. You're phenomenal. Well, I just know that because that's how I do it. Yeah, the notification bell should send you a text that next time we go live, you should get on your notifications in YouTube that, hey, Legend Superstitions is live. So there you go. There's Roy, and Roy jumped in. But also being said and done, like I said, we got a lot of things we're trying to push in. I'm talking to Trevor about for the lives to have an outro as well. We're talking about a few other things to add in here that I can do, but he can show me so that I can pop in and out and show clips and stuff, or maybe set some things up. Kind of that kind of stuff to make it more fun. The problem is sometimes, like last week, you're running behind in work, and you're going to be coming in, and it's not going to be 4 o'clock or the time before where I was driving, and I knew I definitely wasn't going to be in. The one time I did take a nap, so there. But there you go. So it keeps me busy. So it keeps me on my toes. Watch your mouth. Yeah, those things disappear, though. You don't have to worry about it. Living under a bridge. I don't think we need to address it, because I think addressing it makes them feel like, I don't even know if they can tell that they disappear. So yeah, it's up, it's on them. So I don't really care about those things. Like, that's just the sign of it. And it's generally, since you see one show up and then another person, it's usually the same person over and over. So how many 10-year-olds that don't know how to spell could be in here? So, yeah. So there you go. So no, it was a pretty nice week, but it's disrupted because of the holidays. And Santa, I got underwear and socks because that's what I wanted. I'm a very one of the problems in life is, as we get older, is if we need something, we just get it. So it comes down to the necessity of, I just need it, so I'm going to pick it up. So what do I need to ask for it for? And it's coming out of my bank account anyways from someone. So it just doesn't make sense. So it's just, oh yeah, I need some shirts, I need some this. So yeah, that, it's, I don't know. It's not even necessity. It's just what you'd be going to pick up during that 2 or 3 weeks. Like, okay, what can I live without for 2 or 3 weeks that I'm going to end up picking up all anyways? So that's kind of what it is. And I think that's for everybody. And with kids grown up, it's just even more so. It's just not the same. New vein in my legs so I can walk. That's good. That's a good thing. Walking is very important for people that have struggled to walk or need the aid in walking or have a number of circulatory or leg problems. You don't realize how much that means to you till you don't. It's conditionally put upon you that you can't walk. So anyhow, as far as going out in the mountains, we will, and continue to go into the mountains. But the problem is, we try to watch what we announce. We get caught out there enough here and there. But it's more of just kind of, okay, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? How are we going to do this? And bang, and we go do it. And then still, people cross our paths and go like, oh, what are you guys? And we don't care about talking to people in the parking lot or aside for a moment. But we're trying to do something specific. And some of those sites, we're not, if we're inviting people, we're inviting them for a reason and purpose of what we're doing. So it's not like, hey, let's get everybody together and go do this. Because there's just too many people and too many people just kind of jumping in and out. It's hard enough with audio and stuff going on, even though we do now have a wireless audio setup. So in Garden Valley, yeah, I think it would be a nice hike to do again and plan maybe coming up in January or February as the new growth. Hopefully we get some rain, and as new growth is popping up, but it's going to be a very different look. So it'll be, much different. So I don't have Trevor here to help with some stuff. He is out and about somewhere around here. Anyways, so that would be on the planning stuff. We wanted to do some very interesting things. The Las Perez diggings was pretty good. I liked it. It just had a lot of moving parts to it to remind me, which usually I can remember most of it, but it's usually one individual and a couple supporting characters. In that one, while Perez is there at the beginning, it's changing characters and changing out throughout the story. So it was a lot, and there was a lot I still didn't get into it that I was afterwards going, oh, you scared me there, buddy. Come in for a pet. There you go. But yeah, I liked that one. It's surprising because I had a couple others and I was looking for something Christmassy. And then once we had the video, I realized I didn't have to worry about that. And then that was one in a pile, and I was looking at it and I was like, I really like it. It's going to be a little different to try to do that whole thing, but it's going to be fun. Things are going well here in the hell of Illinois. See you in a few weeks. Thanks for all you do. You are the legend. Well, Bobby, yeah, it'd be cool to get back out here and see you. And things get better for you. Let's drink to Bob Ward. Let's give Bob a drink. In fact, I just finished. I read it twice, very slowly, methodically. I went through Phantom of the Superstitions, which was one of Bob's manuscripts, and then Ripples of Lost Echoes, and then went back through them both again, trying to tie in some different things with them together. And I wanted to kind of look at some of those stories and some of those sites, and then talk to a few people about some of the sites in the stories that nobody seems to know where they're at. So that's going to be something I've been researching, is a couple different sites of where Bob was. I think we might... no, we don't do bong hits here, even though it is perfectly legal to do so. But that would be interesting to do something on kind of looking back at these sites. I think Sal might be one of the few living people, and Sal doesn't go back into the 60s and 70s with Bob Ward. So most all those guys are gone. Some of the last people that even knew Bob Ward are there's only a few of them left. So it's definitely changing. It's definitely changing. Yes, you may take a long hit to Bob Ward. Sand flows in Wayne's veins. Total desert. Well, yeah. Good way. Did you know? I think being a desert rat is just... I liked it when I was a kid. I know everybody liked going up north. To me, you could go out constantly in the desert, because the longer season to go out hiking and get out is definitely in the desert season, probably. And it used to be a little cooler around town, but October till probably April. So you had more of a season to go out constantly in the desert mountains than up north when it got cooler and stuff. So, so I just naturally gravitated to that. And that's something that a lot of people are not big fans of. They're... I've known plenty of people do not care for the desert hunting or desert camping and stuff. And I do kind of understand it. I mean, it is different. It's a drier camp. It's a dustier camp. It's just, I think one of the things that a lot of people really enjoy about camping up north in the woods, because Arizona, remember, is just a little of everything. If you're looking for a little Montana, if you're looking for a little Colorado, if you're looking for a little plains, I mean, Arizona has all of it. But the one nice thing about, the Sonoran Desert is just the remoteness, emptiness, and there's plenty of room out there. But when you're up north, your visibility is taken away, so you don't see... You see so much that you don't see as much as you would. In the desert, you have a much more, expansive view of things and stuff. I think equally both have plenty of animals and vegetation, and there's springs, and there's just so many things. But I think unless you are taken out in that, it's just, it doesn't quite, I don't think it really reflects on you. So I was very fortunate that we went out and did that stuff so much. So, born in Arizona, there you go. Do you believe in red-haired giants? I've known people with red hair. They necessarily weren't giants. I don't believe the giant stuff. I mean, what was a giant? When you consider how much smaller people were in the past, because they talk about, and you see some of the native tribes down in South America still, who are like average height, 4'10", 5 feet tall. When you realize people have gotten larger, and there will always be the freak of nature, when you start looking at those things, what was a red-haired giant? And then these guys say they have bones, but I never seen... it's one of those things kind of like UFOs and ghosts and all this. You can believe the documented evidence, or what they call documented evidence, but when you really take a look at it, if you're questioning something, you find out there isn't really much documented evidence of anything, and most of it falls apart pretty bad. It goes south really quick. So there you go. But we just kind of take care of things. Is it possible to contact Clay Worst? Not really. Clay's in a good place and he's fine and all's well. You'd have to let someone know the password of what you want to. I don't think he needs to be bothered with people's Dutch hunting stuff. For the most part, I think he likes visitors. I think the best visitors for him are those who know him, who can reminisce with him. And I think that's being totally respectful to everybody on all parts. He's given enough. He turned 95, 96 this last month. So I think in that aspect, if I see Clay or if I'm around Clay, it's great to talk with him. I know there are other people that spend time with him, and I listen and talk to them and ask how he's doing and all that. So for the most part, my point in place is, in the last couple of years, as far as television and a lot of things, is I just tell people, no, I've gotten kind of through everything. Is he's just kind of off limits. Let him enjoy life without people pressuring and he's given a lot. He's given enough. In the Robert Lee Lost Dutchman book, he quotes Al Morrow talking about Legend of Peraltas, because all the stories from his sources. Al Morrow knew so much, why dig his tunnel? That's one of the things that's fascinating with Al, because one thing didn't make sense to the other. One of the people you could really, really ask that question of would be Brian Lickman. Brian camped and was in Al's camp before he died. Spent a lot of time with Al before. I think he was Chuck Ayler, then Al Morrow, and then he went up and was with Crazy Jake for a while, and then he left there. Brian was with a number of different people, and he did camp, and he was the camp tender or whatever or whatnot with Al for a long time. He said Al was a special kind of person. If you watch sunsets, you'll get a little insight into that. A lot of those guys were kind of unique in a unique way, and sometimes they didn't make sense. And Al, there's a quote in a book, and I can't remember where I read it. He talks about, he always wonders what would happen if he ended up finding millions of dollars worth of gold. And he said, what do? Get a yacht, you do this, you do that. I get a big house, I get a young girlfriend and all this stuff. And he said the young girlfriend wants to buy things, and then it's all a hassle. And he says, I get worn out reading about that stuff in magazines and books and seeing it in the news. I don't really want to live that. And that's kind of what happens with some of those guys. They all seem to realize, while they were heading for that one thing, they get out there and they find the thing more that they wanted more than anything else, which was peace in the mountains. I think that definitely is true for Ed Piper and Al Morrow and Chuck Ayler and a number of people. I think even someone like Crazy Jake, who didn't spend a ton of time in the mountains, but I think some of them, when the guys who find it, it's different. You can tell, and there's a draw to it. I don't know. There's some people who have been Dutch hunters that are not. I think they did their time in the mountains and then they kind of wore on it. And while they're connected to the mountains, they're not connected in that same sense. But there are people that, if you gave them the option, that was the only thing about the TV show I liked. I was in the mountains every day. So for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, I'm just in the mountains. And I'm like, how often do you get to do that in today's society, is spend that much time constantly in the mountains? So it is what it is. So, but if you email us at the website about Clay Worst, we research, professional company. But no, if you email us there at the website, we can make an inquiry of something. And there are people that will make that determination. That's not my determination. My determination is, how's Clay doing? And then occasionally I'm with someone, we're going over to see him, and I sit and talk with him. And I enjoy talking with him. I enjoy the time we get to spend together. But I feel very uncomfortable with just going over to his house. I've done it a few times, knocked on the door, went inside, and he's always happy to see me, but I always just feel like I don't know what his daily life and lifestyle, and I know it's so much work sometimes for him just to get out of the chair or come across the house to open the door, and it might break him from something else that was important to him that he was trying to accomplish in the day. So I prefer, it's like, oh, someone says, hey, we're going over, Clay's expecting me to do this. And then it gets extended because we're sitting there with Clay, and then Clay just joined the company. Hey, Dallas, how's it going? So that is kind of how I feel on that. So again, it's not disrespecting anyone else, it's respecting Clay more. There you go. That being said and done, as we continue to move on, but yeah, Al Morrow, that was an interesting quote on him and a lot of things he said and research he did. I know he worked with a couple people who were descendants of the Gonzalez family, and that's in his there's a manuscript he wrote about some stuff and some stories he told about it, and Tom Collenborn talked about it. And that's one of the things about losing certain people like Tom, is Tom spent a lot of time sitting around talking to Al, as did Brian. And what you and I would think, oh, that's amazing, it was just them just shooting the breeze. So much of it got lost over time. And one of the things Tom tried to do in the 70s definitely was start capturing some of this, because he realized, oh, he didn't remember what he'd said, what was said. He didn't. I'm sure Tom did not recall a single bit really of the conversations his dad and Herman Petrash had when they would stop at Herman's. He remembers doing so and so forth. So that's one of the problems you run into, is by the time you're like, I know we were there, I don't know what they talked about. That, according to Walt's description, his mind is in a natural void of volcanic rock. Well, I do not remember anyone keying up and saying that, and Walt's particularly saying that. It was in an 18-inch vein. It was quartz locked in hematite with gold, like popcorn strands through it. He said it was very unusual, the way it ran through it and so forth. So when you go to his description of his mind, you have to use what he told somebody, and the only two people he probably directly spoke to of the mind would be Reinhard Petrash and Julia Thomas, who told these things to Jim Bark. If there's anything beyond that we know from the Bark notes, if there's anything we'd want to know, it's probably locked in the Spangler files of Jim Bark's actual papers and so forth. Very little outside of maybe a few things with Sim Zealy got out, maybe the Howlands, but I don't recall that particularly from any of those people. So while Julia did talk to people, that initial description and so forth, Jim Bark was given a lot more information because Julia and Reinhardt saw him as advantageous to them. He had the ranges, he had the cattle out there, he was out in that area, so he would be the best person, the scout in a way, to be able to bring them back information if they gave them all that information. So I'm sure it's in a pocket. It was something, I think, with a lot of the Peralta mines, and the reason people, if you say, oh, there was 9 Peralta mines, well, if they had 9 mines, they might have been surface deposits that they followed. If they scoured the mountains pretty well, they got most of those surface deposits. There could be a few more in the mountains. It's just people haven't actively been able to find them because of over time. Now, maybe weathering or some other thing could expose some of those. I haven't heard of anything exposed quite like that in an extremely long time. But that's why I go with the Bark notes, because us two people we know knew Waltz. There's all the evidence, the newspaper accounts, everything. We know that he knew them. Waltz is buried next to Reinhardt's brother. We know the connectivity. We know Jim Bark basically said their frustration when they weren't really finding anything. They came to him, then he went back and forth with them trying to get the story, and they were giving him identical word-for-word stories, so he knew he could trust that. Everything you start coming in after that is people that have heard these stories, read newspaper accounts, and started creating. And that becomes more problematic, because Were they really there? Did they really know him? Are they just plain variations? Or is it because their particular mind of like, well, this is what I really think it is. So I'm not going to listen to anybody else that actually heard Jacob Walls. I'm going to just make up my own thing and go my own reasoning of what it was. And there's a lot of problems with that. Any raw gold samples from the massacre grounds? No. Something I've searched for. I knew someone that found some gold out there. Very small amount. I don't know. I'm trying to get that. Probably pieces about this big. I don't know how to do it, but probably a little less than a quarter sample size of ore with gold in it. They found 2 or 3 pieces. This would be in the mid 70s. And I didn't really know it at the time because I thought, well, that was pretty common stuff. You know, I only had a handful of books, so I thought, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. I want to go out there, and I know where they found it. I've been out there several times, never found anything. But they found it, and it was a pretty big deal at the time. I don't think any of us knew how big of a deal it is because we thought common practice is people, back because of the story of Silverlock and Malm, that people occasionally found some small pieces. It wasn't found near where Silverlock and Malm's camp was or the area that they really searched and went through. It was found north of there. Who knows? Was it a burrow got loose and got up somewhere? Peter Esposito, I don't use his name very often, but Peter Esposito and I talked about it, and I went out and I told him where it was, and he looked and he didn't find anything. But we were very interested because he thought it was a possibility of that a burrow or something got up in that area and stuff kicked loose off of it or whatever when they were cutting those pack saddles, that something could have broke loose or fell from those areas, and that's what you would look for. I wish we had the access to the site that we did back in the old days where the parking lot was right there, because getting Frank and Woody in there would be very easy, and having them metal detect that area, you could see if you could find it. I know there's a lot of people that metal detected that area, but it would be interesting to see if they would pick up anything surface, close to the surface in there. And yeah, so that would be my thing, is that area would be good. Whether you believe it to be the massacre grounds or the massacre grounds, the government doesn't take the gold you find, because you're not going to sit there and go, hey, look at, I got the gold, I got the gold, I got the gold. I mean, that would be silly or stupid. I don't think the government's that interested in, unless they're trying to make your story not exist. There's enough people have talked about various things. Let's just take Jesse's book and Ron Feldman's autobiography and some of the things they talk about, the Silver Chief Mine and those types of things. And while there's been steps taken to change some of that narrative, I would say definitely the government's not going to get involved unless, and it's not the government you have to worry about, it's the Forestry Service, and it's someone up in the Forestry Service. So, if you have a lot of gold and you're spending it and you're doing something with it, your more important problem is probably the IRS. If you found it, you wouldn't say anything about it. I've always wondered, if I found, Frank and I once talked, if we found 51 gold bars, what would we do? And we jokingly said, well, we would tell everybody, wow, look at this. We found 3-4 Spanish gold bars and allow those to be produced and say we want to give one to the museum or something like that. The rest of it wouldn't exist. It would be basically in that circle of whoever was there at the moment. That would be the beginning and end all of it. When Rick Gwynn was digging for one of his sites, I told him if he ever thought he was close or anything, his best bet would be to get everyone out of the area, decide who he could trust, who did not have loose lips, have us come out with a truck, and then pick a spot, give us coordinates, and then we would meet there and bury it again and move it into private property where he could control and keep an eye on it. There's a lot of ways, you have to plan on those things. That's probably very important. I remember when Frank and Tom Cullen were checking out the old lodge in the mountains. Have you and Frank been there? I think it was Herman Petrash's cabin. Yeah, that was Tom took Frank out there. Yes, we've been out there many a time. I don't know if we've ever shown any of the videos of us out there. So many people have ransacked that place, and it's all. But yes, Frank and I spent a lot of. I've been out there many times before Frank had been. Not before maybe Tom, because Tom had been out there when he was a boy with his dad, probably in the 40s. So, but I'd been out there. I knew where that site was. By the time Frank ever saw it, there wasn't much of anything left. It's just some pieces. In fact, there was a couple pieces from the stove, some tin from the roof that was left of Herman's cabin. Just a couple pieces, because there's almost not, it's been torn down and everything. I picked up a couple pieces from it, and I kept them just as mementos of that it had been there, because it's gone. They tore it down. There was just sort of that sort of thing. So yes, so I did do that. I don't think anybody's anything with that. These aren't the gold bars you're looking for. Okay. Mum's the word. Yeah, and I think for the most part is, you want to do it from the historical sense and point. Tom and I once had a little discussion, and it wasn't a in-depth discussion of like, would it be in your best interest, respectful of the legend and everything it means to everyone, to basically say I found something and say, hey, this must have been one of the other Peralta mines, and do something kind of sidetrack it, because never try to I think there is a disservice and a disrespect, definitely when you know better, to say, oh, this is probably the Lost Dutchman mine and so forth. Someone that is a true Dutch hunter, because one of the things it does, it takes a lot out of it for the community. If there is no Lost Dutchman, I mean, the museum doesn't matter anymore, even though the museum has nothing to do with the Dutchman that much anymore. But it hurts a lot of other factors in there. I mean, they just become restaurants. It just becomes Apache Junction, and it just suddenly loses that intrigue. I think it'd be hard to suck it completely out at this point, because again, how are you getting the word out there? There's not like, it's not going to make national news. I don't think Jesse Capens, the guys from Utah, they barely registered the needle on the radar nationally. So that is part of it too, is I don't think there's not much anybody can do. People, one of these guys selling 50, 100 books. I mean, it's not like Jack Carlson's hiking guide selling tens of thousands. They just don't sell those types of books and stuff. So the word that you're getting so much for some of this stuff is so minimal. It's a vanity project most of the time. And I've talked about that. Frank was looking for tokens. That would have been at the old lodge at Fish Creek then, because he was looking for the tokens at the lodge. He did find like silver dollars or something. So there you go. Oh, la la. So yeah, I gotta do the pause there to make things disappear. The mystique and all of the rich history surrounding it all is interesting and should be preserved. Well, that's one thing, but then how much of it's disappeared because they've hauled things out of there. The Forestry Service has made changes on things. Peralta Park changed a lot of things. Bob Ward's cabin site's gone. Several of the mines, which were well known, and much to do with the area with Henry DeCook and Bob Ward and Henry Burns, so much of that area, there was so many things that we knew about, and it's just done, it's gone, it's fenced, it's just changed, filled in. So they're always going to make changes. Fortunately, in the wilderness area, it's rugged enough and hard enough, and there's just no way for the Forestry Service to do too much damage. They've taken away, what was it? Was it really that big of a deal for Chuck Ayler's place? To tear it down. Could have just left, some semblance of it up. Rivas, of course, took a few fires and it finally, but that's kind of, Ever heard from the guy who disappeared after seeing the helicopter in Fish Creek? No. Losing history bit by bit. But it's just the evolution of time. I mean, not very little lasts forever. I mean, let's look at it. Even fictional novels. The oldest fictional novel out there, Don Quixote. How many of you have read Don Quixote? Because it's a lot to read, a lot to, and in the first book and the second book. So most people haven't read that, and that's the oldest fictional novel, not on treasure hunting, but I think novel, period. It was like one of the first. And that's not as old as you think it is in the course of time. So what are you kind of like? You're going to always lose. It's always going to be a losing proposition. My thing is there's always a regeneration. So like the mountains of fire, the fires have happened. There was 3 calderas collapse. At one point, it was just a wasteland. Nothing could even breathe or live in it. And it comes back, and it comes back, and it comes back. You may not see it in your lifetime, but that's selfish of you to think that is what it is. We preserve it from so many other things. The problem with it being a wilderness area is when something does happen, it isn't cleansed. It doesn't have cattle in there keeping the brush down. It's harder to control those brush fires. So the preservation of it also creates the problem of the destruction of it, making it easier to destroy it. So that is just kind of, it goes hand in hand, doesn't it? And so you can't win or lose. It's just going to be what it's going to be. And there was a couple of people that kind of like were a little bit up in arms and kind of thinking I was so cold and unfeeling. But my heart and my love for those mountains, well beyond anything for them they could even imagine. I just see it is what it is. The moment that's happening, I just see what it is and realize it's going to occur. The mountains I saw in the early 70s, in the late 70s, in the mid 80s, in the mid 90s, each time of that, the mountains were different to me. And guess what? They're going to always change. And the mountains Trevor sees possibly in his 60s or 70s and has memories of, and it's just going to be different. And that is the way it is. But Dunce Run Gold Story. Drink for Bob Ward. The Bob Ward. I don't know if Josh had finished up. I would think they filmed during the summer. I would hope. I think they started. It was pretty cool or cold out. I don't know what the filming schedule is. I talked to Ron and Jesse more than Josh. He's obviously the younger on the younger side. And I haven't been over and seen him, so I don't know. He was staying up there that I know of. I don't know. We will call it from now on Blind Frog Ranch, the Josh Feldman Show, Blind Frog Ranch. The silliness that evolves from that. You're making me laugh because I'm remembering the last episode. Yes. Again, watch the show. I would love to do an interview with Josh on that, but I don't know. I don't want to get him in trouble or have problems for him with the show because of it. So therefore, I look at it as I'll just kind of like do my little bit and do my bits, and that'll be fine. Yes, it returns Wednesday. Did we miss it? I don't know. I can save the last episode, watch it, and marvel again. There was Trevor pointing out things like Eric's hiking, goes to walk, and he has his foam mattress thing in his pack, and then he turns around and talks and turns back around and it's missing again. Their continuity in filming was terrible. You could tell they showed up at that open mine area and set up a camp with the crew and basically stayed a day and filmed everything just randomly. And the gear that would come and show up and disappear on them and stuff was just, we were just sitting there not even trying to look for it, and we were cracking up of just how funny it was. I mean, if you can take this and say, well, we need to go straight down here and do this, and then realize that you're digging over here somewhere. I mean, there's just problems. So it's fun to watch, and it just, there's silliness, and we crack up. And because we're laughing and having a good time, all more power to them. So yes, continue to watch it. It's a silly show. doesn't make any sense. Yes, Bobby, but that's the best part of it. It is absolute. It's I Love Lucy. It is just absolutely, you know. And they're going to make up. I mean, whatever happened to the big giant prehistoric snake thingy that was killing deer and it was in the lake? That disappeared. The mine tunnels where, what was his name, Dwayne Hollinger almost died, and they just kind of vanished. I mean, he was dying and they were trying to get him out of there, and then the next season he's in Central America walking amongst the pyramids, and they never addressed it again. The SUVs that were showing up, threatening them, that never appeared again. The cameras, the show is such a crack up because literally the continuity does not exist. It literally does left and right turns, and you could watch it 3 weeks later and you don't miss anything because they've completely just wiped it away and just went on to something else. So it makes it kind of unique and fun in its own way because it is more enjoyable because it's just silly and funny. And I don't think they mean to be Duck Dynasty or Mountain Monsters, but they basically are. And if that's what they're really trying to do, in the end result, they've succeeded, and I will watch every episode and then rewatch it because I find it entertaining. Josh is a little too serious on it. But maybe he's what makes it so funny, because I just look at Josh and I wait. How his eyes don't roll up back in his head, I don't get it. But, again, more power to him. If they pay him well, awesome. So there's a rock wall going up the mountain, 5 feet tall and quarter mile. There's a lot of those things that are 5 feet tall and long like that would be cattle. The cowboys, a lot of people would do it to separate ranges, and then that way also to push cattle down into areas and be able to separate them and stuff. That's what a lot of those walls are. I don't think the Hohokam were building long walls through the desert like that. And there's a lot of those in the Superstitions. They're just hard to see because of the brush cover. When I was younger, you would go back in certain areas and see them. And it was like, I always wondered if it was prehistoric or this or that. And I learned over the years it was just more about working the cattle in the various ranges and keeping cattle out of certain areas. So, what's the creek or valley we can research what you're wanting to explore? I don't know. I always, one I haven't been up as much and spent a lot of time in for a long time would be probably, what would be a good one? Haunted Canyon. That's a beautiful area to be in. That is a beautiful area. I really like Haunted Canyon. It's just, the walk and the drive and everything else and up. Living up all the drama. Is Ron Feldman still interested in the search of the mine, or has he? I think Ron's retired. Ron will listen to you if he has time. He's at the gift shop. If nobody's there and he's bored, he'll sit on the patio and talk to you. Ron's a nice guy, so he might have time for you, and he might tell you what he thinks from his side. So if you're polite, be respectful and polite, and that's what I'm going to say. If Ron's there or Jesse's in the corral office, which is Ron's going to be in the gift shop, Jesse will be out in the corral office. But if you run into someone like that and you want to talk to them about some of what you're thinking or this, that, they're very open to it. But be respectful and polite. If they're busy, just understand that they're busy, because that's a big difference there. Okay. At least they didn't make Louisiana people look as bad as swamp people. Well, there you go. Said he's not Ron's a Dutch hunter. He's been hunting the Dutchman and his whole life, most of his life. Did any of the Bacon brothers search for the lost? Who's the Bacon brothers? You're talking Hooley Bacon and stuff, or Kevin Bacon? I don't know who the Bacon brothers are. Attaway girl. Hi. All right. As we roll down we're getting towards the end now. According to Josh Feldman, they already found the lost gold mine. They actually said that Blind Frog is just more of a joke. Okay, well, I'm sorry, Bobby, because, yeah, you need to basically invest in some stocks and bonds and raise some money to buy Jesse's book. Jesse's book explains their thought process of why they believe the Silver Chief was the Dutchman mine. My main problem with their whole thought process, and that is Jacob Waltz, by the time he died, had been there while it was being mined. So why wouldn't have he been aware that there was other people there had been working and mining it? He said last time he went back, nothing had been touched, which would put it about 1880. So 1879, 1880, 1881, by then it had already been in the newspapers and mining and stuff. So he would have been well aware of it. That's probably one of the biggest strikes. There's a number of other problems with it. So is it a silver mine that had some gold in it? Absolutely. Does it kind of feel a little Dutchman? Maybe. Dutchman was a pit that was a pit kind of like a funnel that kind of sloped in, and I know I'm turned the wrong way doing this, but kind of angled down and in. And I'd been the Silver Chief, and it was nothing like that. It was basically a vertical pit. Very different to me, the sense of it and all. So, but the problem is I know a lot more of the story. I'm not going to have a problem with it. Jesse and I have not had a problem with it. I got his books. I got both the books he put out, including the hardcover. So we have a couple of copies of the hardcover, a couple of the soft covers of each one he's done. I've always bought his dad's books. I consider them friends, and I don't have a problem with someone believing something different. I believe the Dutchman's still out there, and if it has been found by someone, they've never written a book or discussed it or talked about it. And I could go back and remember when Jesse first was writing, he was talking about that and starting to write his book about the Silver Chief. Josh didn't seem to be too much into it. Jesse did talk at the rendezvous, and he discussed it and his theories and so forth. And I remember Josh said something. We were sitting around later that night, just sitting around. And Josh saying something to Jesse is like, Jesse, you believe in what you're going to believe, and if other people don't want to believe in it, that's fine. And I took it as like Josh wasn't maybe 100% on board with the thoughts on that. I mean, everybody comes to a point when they don't want to search no more, and you need a different reason why you don't have to. So there you go. And you say it on public television, you can think it says what it does and how it goes across. And the Lost Dutchman, they feel that what they found was the Lost Dutchman. That's just that. All right. I'm not going to get into it too much. Follow the Rhyolite. Hooley Bacon rancher up there. Everybody that ranched up there at one point or another probably searched for the mine. Meteorite hunting is fun too. I've never been much of one of that. Been in areas where there's been meteorite stuff found. It never was my thing. I think metal detection guys and people like that get more into that stuff. Thanks for another live Happy New Year. That's usually the sign we're probably getting down to the end when some people start thanking me. Besides, we know somebody that said he found it twice in there's a lot of people found it in different spots. And then there's a lot of people that have found Noah's Ark and the Ark of the Covenant out there. They have found, what else did they find? The Holy Grail. There's a lot of things been found in the superstitions. They keep, I'm waiting for Viking treasure to be found out there, and that's coming eventually. But yeah, there's people that were very interested in the Templars up there, obviously the Jesuits, and the Franciscans, and the Rosicrucians, and you just keep going on and on. And there's just in them, there was people tried someone once actually made a good case, and I wish he would. I wanted him to talk at the rendezvous a couple years ago or so. He made a case for Victoria Peak, and what was happening there, and with the superstitions and certain things. And it was a very cool idea what he had, and he did make sense. I don't know if I really believe that was possible, what he was saying, but it kind of like there was some kind of like he did kind of have a nice story. I wanted him to talk at the rendezvous, and he disappeared, so I don't know whatever happened to him and his full story. Keep them guessing. Confusion works. You'll find God out there. Crystal skulls, ancient hieroglyphs, you name it. Yeah, everybody's found a little of everything. Underground UFO bases, cryptoids. So, unfortunately, I've not found most of that. I found you. Yeah, see? There you go, Bobby. Yeah, that's sweet, Bobby. Thank you. But, we find each other in the mountains, and we kind of find out more about ourselves, which is important as well. Which I think is very important, learning more about yourself. What was it? There was something I was watching on television. I watch a lot of odd documentary stuff and all, and somewhere the guy was talking, and he said, until you stop hating yourself, you're never going to be able to love anyone else or be kind, and truly be kind to anyone else. Being forgiving of yourself, which we probably are kind of the roughest on ourselves more than anybody else. So there you go. There's my philosophy for the day. I can't remember what that was. I watch a lot of odd stuff, and I jump back and forth in and out of programs. Like, I got so many things going on at once because I just watch, and then I just kind of look at things, and then I just drift to another thing, and then I try to remember what the hell I was watching. I don't even know how to look them up because I don't even remember what the names of them are. But I find something. One that I found interesting is from the early 2000s. It's a show called Dream Keeper, which was, I believe it or not, a Hallmark Lifetime type movie. And it's very, very different than I thought it was. I thought it was going to be, this is going to be horrid. And it's about a Lakota grandfather and then his grandson in a pickup truck trying to go to a powwow in, I think, New Mexico. And it actually isn't a bad film. It actually does a nice job, and it's pretty much all indigenous actors in the cast, not like Italians and stuff, and Puerto Ricans filling all the holes. But no, it's kind of nicely done and paced. But I think it was like a mini series, so it's like 3 or 4 hours long. So I've been just I spot into that, and then oddly enough, I'll go into Preacher because I've been catching up on Preacher too, because I was a comic book kid. And then a graphics comic guy after that. So then I watch something like that, and then I go off to something. So my tastes are just so random. And then, of course, I watch the Josh Feldman show known as Blind Frog Ranch. My dog found Sal's chicken wing at the last rendezvous. Sal's doing fine. How many mines total are there documented? Well, I don't know. It is one of the problems with the superstitions is they never finished the mineral studies and so forth. That those reports that people always quote that there's no gold in the superstitions. They did a number of mines that were played out, and so there's no remaining gold in those, or just traces. And that was the end of it. And when I talked to a geologist who had I believe he had a doctorate out of ASU, and he was talking about all the mines and all the activity and samples in different areas. And Frank and I found what he was talking about very, very interesting, because he was talking about the prime areas you would look for. And one was the southeastern central area, Hewitt Canyon and that kind of area, and Iron Mountain. Then he was talking about the Goldfield Ghost Town and that area, and the northwestern side of the mountains. And then he was talking along Peralta Road, which he said would be the third place he would think would be. Well, that's the one place that doesn't even resemble the other two. But he said everything geologically in that area would make it, appear there could be gold found in that area too. And we talked, and he said, yeah, those mineral studies are nowhere near completed. He said it's just he said they basically, it was done to advance the wilderness area and make people think there's nothing there. And he said it just never was completed. And he said it just got far along enough, and let's hit the Palmer mine, let's hit the Daysite mine, let's hit some known mines that everybody knows there's nothing in, and say, oh, this was not the lost Dutchman, and then be done with it. And that was his point. He said, I don't know if anybody will ever be able to get the government to go in there and finish that study. It's probably not worth their while. It's probably not worth the headache, because it would create the new headache of why can't we privately prospect in there. But keeping the big corporations out is probably as good as keeping us out too. So there is that, even though the big corporations are going to come down the south side. Well, Happy New Year's, everybody, says Susan. And we are getting down to the end of the nitty-gritty to get out of there. It's been a kind of a nice, quiet kind of move through things. Everybody do have a Happy New Year. This is our last one. We have Chasing Legends coming up Monday. So that'll be our last broadcast, right? Before the end of the year. Right. Yeah, because Tuesday, even if we did the video stuff on Wednesday. So if you catch the top of this, we played a little music, talked a little about what we'll do in the music end of things and how we'll be moving forward. But thank you, everybody, for sticking through with us to the end of the year. Thank you for sticking through. I hope we have a good Chasing Legends Monday. I haven't given it much thought this week. I should have been able to knock 2 or 3 out. Bob Shoes and Greg Davis might have a count on the number of mines. I don't think so. I mean, it's just so many places, and there's mines that I know of, places that, you know, Greg finds out. I think Jack Carlson, I know several people that would have, they don't have a count, they just know where there are so many. And I can just tell you is like between the prospects and the mine, there's just thousands out there. It's because there's so many of viable possible mines. There's hundreds, and just so many of them are probably undocumented. So many of them have just almost disappeared. So, and it's probably in the best interest, because sometimes some of those things can be very dangerous. Okay, see everybody next time. Hey David and David. There's Sky Cloud showing up at the end. Merry Xmas, Happy New Year, hey, Sky Cloud. Man, you're on like a different time wave than the rest of us. But thanks for joining us, even though it's the end. You can go back and check it all. Merry Christmas, everybody. Haunted Canyon. Yeah, Haunted Canyon's a cool place. I like to go in by Pino and go in from the southern end. There's a nice walking trail there. It's very pretty going in there. It's and Tony Cabin's down in there. It's just a very nice area. So, yeah, if you go back in there to camp, go with the plan to stay a day or two and camp at Tony Cabin in that area, general area, not in the cabin. Be respectful of the cabin as we restore it. But, yeah, it's just a very, very nice area to get away, especially when it's starting to warm up. It's a nice spot. I guess everything went pretty well today, because everybody's saying thank you, and that is awesome. And thank you, everybody. I'm going to kind of shut it down here. Trevor doesn't have my intro stuff, but I will get ready to kind of knock it out of here. So, again, Chasing Legends on Monday. It'll be our last one of the year, and then we will be starting up with a few other things and getting some stuff done. We'll see what we pull together from the mountains. We've been trying to get Frank to go out, but the last time I talked to him, he had some respiratory thing going on. He said it was a respiratory, and I don't think it was anything bad, but he was having some problems. And so I was kind of waiting again, because there's been a couple things we wanted to do in this last month, but I want to make sure he's healthy as possible to go do them. I don't want him to get out and then end up sick. So we want to do that. There's some things Trevor and I will be doing on our own, and there's a couple other things we want to do. So like I said, we will start in January, start kind of like ramping up a lot of things going up into the spring. And the next 3-4 months will get really busy, hopefully, and get a lot of walking. And I could use the walking. I could use a lot of walking out there. All right, until the next time, I want to thank everybody for joining us, and thank you, everybody, for all year long, for everything you've done, supporting us in every which way possible. It's been really, really cool. Whether it's, buying coffee cups or t-shirts or hats, or watching the videos or the comments and the compliments and hanging with us through thick and thin. It's been very, very, very steady. And with the rendezvous and everything else, when you look at it, the thing I don't always look at is the big, we're growing. It's that steady, slow climb. But that the people that keep coming back year after year, and then the new people that join and keep going through, and I'd say people like David and Clint and Dallas, they just kind of come on in, and then they just kind of eventually you're thinking, man, yep, been here a while now, and we just continue to move on. And it's the new friendships and things made. Discussion I had the other day, someone asked me about Larry Hedrick, and I were talking, and Larry's doing well. And he talked about the new Dutch hunter generation. And I told him, Larry, there are a bunch of guys out there who are under 50, and some guys under 40, and some guys under 30. And they're coming along. I said, it's just hard for everyone to look back at it all and realize I came from there, because you want to say, oh, he doesn't know any. Well, he has to grow. He has to learn. So I told him there's a lot of good people out there. And I'm glad I've met them all. And I just talk with them. And a lot of people here are those people. And so it's very, very cool that those people are getting more interested. And it's part of our job to keep them interested. It's not just on a metal detection or this, or as prospecting of this, to kind of open this up to them, for them to find their spots. And trust me, after all these years, from the time I was a kid, I have no regrets. I agree with Clay Worst, Ron Feldman, and all these guys, Bob Shoes. There's no regrets. I mean, it's some of the best times of my life, and some of the best memories of my life are what we've done in the mountains and the people I've met in and out of the mountains. So there you go. So no reason to compliment me, because I got so much back from it over the years. So there you go. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to grab me some dinner. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. And we will see you next time in live next year. Thank you for coming. And